Make sure I got this on right, Kristen. It's still red. After I slid it over.
It's going.
It's going? Okay, we're good. Good evening. The June 13th, 2018 meeting of the Municipal Code Enforcement Board is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, the Municipal Code Enforcement Board is charged with conducting hearings to determine whether an alleged violation of the city code has occurred. Decisions made by this quasi-judicial board will be based on the evidence and facts presented tonight. Our meetings are conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, and each case will begin with the city presenting its evidence of the alleged violation. The respondent will then present his or her case. Both parties will have an opportunity to cross-examine all witnesses. The board members may question the witnesses. Comments by both parties must be relevant to the case. Persons wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to do so by the chairman and must address the board from the podium after giving their name and address. Upon request, copies of material submitted by staff are available for review. Board members are reminded to obtain permission to speak from the chair, and questions of the city should be directed to the attorney for the city. At this time, I'll ask all persons who expect to give testimony tonight to stand and be sworn in by the deputy city clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony or evidence you're about to give or present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Cases will be taken out of order to accommodate respondents and witnesses present at tonight's meeting. The first order of business I'd like to do is approval of minutes from the May 9th, 2018. Have all board members received the minutes of the May 9th, 2018 meeting?
Yes.
Are there any corrections or additions to these minutes? No. If the minutes are acceptable, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone nay? No. Motion goes. I believe first off, the city manager would like to speak.
Good evening, Board. Appreciate just a couple of minutes. Just want to kind of give you a heads up on the status of things. We have, in the past month or so, been talking about providing the board with some additional, maybe some training and orientation, if you would. I think we've kind of done that once. If we need to do it again, we'd be more than happy to. Just let me know. One of the things that we had discussed in the past was providing an attorney for the board. We have come to an agreement with an attorney out of the city of Tampa who is going to represent the board. We've got a draft MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that we're going to present to the council next week. So we'll move forward with that if council approves it, and I don't anticipate any problems. But as of your next meeting, you'll have some representation. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. All right? Thank you. Oh, I don't know that was up. I'm looking for questions.
Presented last time, the orientation?
I'm sorry?
Same attorney same attorney that presented last time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Ernie Mueller.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you'd like a vote on whether or not to have orientation, I'm thumbs up on that, absolutely.
On more orientation?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, just to-
We can talk with him about it. And again, I think
No, I meant
that,
also just for, we have a lot of new members, and I'd like for us to get together either for a legal orientation or.
we'll see what we can get set up. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Mr.
For
Wu.
sure.
Yeah, was the position ever posted, or was this particularly just a pre-selected process to hire him?
Well, there's really no requirement imposed on the city manager. The city manager has the ability to appoint an attorney under our ordinances, so.
Okay, I just thought, because, if it wasn't in the ordinances, then it could be
No, the
conceived
city ma-
as.
yeah, city
in essence,
manager is
especially
authorized-
Since we didn't pay him to come here.
Yeah.
Then he would have, curry favor ahead of other people that could be considered for the position because he
Yeah.
came here and made that presentation.
No, we have made this decision, I have made this decision based on a couple of things. One, we're exchanging services, so there's no cost to the city. Second, this man handles code enforcement. That's what he does for the city of Tampa. I don't know anybody that would be better suited to offer legal help, legal advice to
So
you.
you say exchange of services, and we as a city will provide time,
Yes,
hours to the
Yes.
city of Tampa in
we're
exchange
going to
for city.
reciprocate services to them. Sure.
And that'll be all in the MOU?
That'll be, I'm sorry.
That'll all be spelled out in the MOU?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious, because, how many hours are we getting reciprocated as a
Well,
taxpayer?
I understand. Sean, you could probably nickel and dime this thing to death.
All right,
I think that it's a good arrangement. The man knows what he's doing. The man is competent at what he's doing. He's been doing it for several years. He's very familiar with all the little nuances that this board would have to deal with and all the code issues. We thought it was a good arrangement, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost us anything. If we end up spending an enormous amount of time and he doesn't, we have the ability to adjust, make adjustments to the agreement, so.
that's.
I don't anticipate any
That's the
problem.
answer I like to hear there.
I don't anticipate that problem.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Anything else?
Anybody else?
Appreciate it. Thanks for the heads up. It's all yours.
Ready when you are, Kristen.
Okay, we will hear the first case. Case number 181403, City versus Randa Mustafa for property located at 8713 Beverly Drive. The case is before the board based on an alleged violation of Section 828A1 permits application required. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Jose Silva. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Jose Silva, Code Compliance Officer. This case originated proactively February 28, 2018. My inspection at the time noted a small pile of broken flooring tile in the backyard of the residence. This time I issued a door hanger with a compliance date of March 7, 2018. During the next several weeks, I monitored the location and on April 6, 2018, notified Community Development when it was apparent a remodel was occurring at the residence without a permit. I was met at the location by the building inspector, and a stop work order was posted. On April 16, 2018, I was notified by Community Development that no permit was obtained, and a notice of violation was issued with a compliance date of April 26, 2018. Posted the notice at the home as well as City Hall, also mailed copies, both certified, regular mail to the address of the registered owner. On April 23, 2018, I received a call from a female requesting more time to clear the construction debris from the backyard. I advised her she had till May 9th. On May 10th, 2018, I re-inspected the property and the construction debris was cleared from the backyard. This time, I would like to submit printout of the stop work order that's in the system at this time, showing that no permit was obtained, and photographs taken by me on April 6 of the construction debris in the backyard.
Board will accept.
As of this date, there is still no permit for the work that has been done at the residence.
Anybody have any questions for Officer Silva? Mr. Lloyd? and then
Just for clarity, the only code violation that was cited in this violation is the permit?
Yes,
Not
sir.
the debris or anything like that to start a
The
repeat
debris was
violator?
cleared, so I brought that into compliance.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to.
Same question? Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Is anyone from the audience wish to speak on this case? Yeah, please come forward, state your name and address, please.
My name is Rhonda Mustafa. I'm the owner of the property. I purchased it 2 years ago for my dad. I wasn't aware that we had to have a permit to work on the inside of the house. We stopped work once we received the stop work order, and that's pretty much it.
Anybody have any questions? Yep, Mr. Rocky?
Just one question, are you going to apply for a permit?
Yeah, I did apply through email, and then they told me I couldn't apply through email. And because I've been busy with the baby, I haven't been able to go to the office yet,
Got any idea when you're going to?
as
Make
soon
it-
as possible,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I just, a little clarity on, what kind of renovations were you doing or in conducting?
The
that-
drywall, the floors,
Okay, so pretty much taking the walls down, putting up new drywall?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Are you guys doing the work yourself?
No, we have a contract.
You have a contractor?
But we stopped the work since we can't afford to do any more work for now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion. Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Jose Silva and Ms. Rhonda Mustafa, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Rhonda Mustafa in case number 18-1403 to be guilty of violating Section 8-28 subsection A subsection 1 of the city code, give the respondents until July 11th, 2018, to come into compliance with the code sections in question. If the property is not brought into compliance by that date, a fine of $25 per day shall begin to accrue on the day following July 12th and continue to accrue on the day following July 11th and continue to accrue until the date the violator provides the city with evidence that the property's been brought into compliance.
Anybody with a second? Second. Mr. Lloyd with a motion, Mr. Nopke with a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Okay. Mrs. Mustafa, what basically just happened there is you have until July 11th to come into compliance with the codes that you're outstanding. If you do not comply by the 11th, the following day, you will start accruing a $25 per day fine. Okay?
I have a question though. What if we're not ready to proceed on the work? We have to have a permit for the previous work that was done?
Yep.
If I'm not, I think she would want to get that question on record, too.
Yeah, can you just come back up for us, please? Just so they can get it on the microphone. Just ask the question one more time, just so
So
they
my
get it.
question was, if we're not ready to do any more work, because like I said, we don't have the budget for it right now, do we still need that work permit for, like, what contractors do we put on it? And
Well, I think what you're going to want to do is get with the code enforcement officer on that. If for some reason you're not able to meet that deadline, make sure you're back here in front of us. But there are things that the code enforcement board can help you with the community development. I believe permits run for up to 6 months. There might be an affidavit you can get with them to sign, to state that you aren't going to conduct the work. The concern from the city is we don't want you doing work that could jeopardize the safety of your family, i.e. electrical, drywall, and it might fall down. That's why we require those permits. So get with that, we're giving you 30 days to get with the code enforcement, get with community development, and find out the best course of action.
Yeah, to get a plan
Okay.
together and then, you know, you guys
Okay.
can figure it out and move on from there.
And they'll be able to help you out. And we understand that scenario, but, you know, you've got 30 days to figure out what instruments are in place that the city has to help you. Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. All right, next case.
Case number 18-2020, City versus Anthony D. and Marcina L. Bobo for property located at 7501 Okeechobee Court. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 828A1 permits application required. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Director Tom Baroni. City has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Tom Baroni, Code Compliance. This case originated from a neighbor's complaint that Jose Silva received on April 30th, 2018, that the contractor was installing exterior boards incorrectly on the north side of the dwelling. Boards were not being staggered, or whether a vapor barrier was not presented. Inspector Silva called over to Community Development to have the building inspector check and advise whether owner needs to apply for a building permit. Later that day, the inspector, Donald Knight, went out and issued a stop work order. Mr. Bobo did come into the city hall and spoke with the building official, Miranisi, and myself, and at which time he was instructed to apply for a permit. On May 16, 2018, Code Compliance Department received an email from Community Development noting no change to the stop work order. A notice of violation was prepared on the 16th with a compliance date of May 30th, 2018. I posted the notice at the front door and mailed copies both certified and first-class mail. I also posted a copy at City Hall for the 10-day requirement. A check with Community Development noted no change on the 1st of June. Later that morning, Mr. Bobo and I met at City Hall, and he obtained a building permit. Therefore, the property is now in compliance. At this time, I would like to submit an affidavit of compliance, and the city is just looking for a finding. And Mr. Bobo is here
Board will
tonight.
accept.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Barone? Nope.
Mr. Bobo, would you like to come up and speak?
Just please state your name and address.
Anthony Bobo, 7501 Okeechobee Court, Temple Terrace. What I want to ask is about the fine that I'm accruing with the work now. Is $50 per day? And is there the ability for it to be $25 a day?
Can I explain to the board, sir? There's a- Last month, was it last month, Jose, or 2 months ago? Okay, in February, Jose presented a case for damaged exterior walls, and the board heard the case, and a fine of $50? $50 per day was stated on that particular case. So Mr. Bobo is questioning that particular case and not the case that I presented.
So
With
two
the-
separate.
They're two separate cases,
Okay.
okay?
But, sorry. but-
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, wait for your approval.
No, go ahead.
So was he doing the repair work in response to to that previous violation? Is that what?
He was originally doing the repair work for the exterior damaged exterior boards. And then the amount of work that's being done, it requires a building permit. So initially, Jose presented it in February for damaged exterior walls. Now it comes to the point where now he needs a building permit. So they're two separate cases.
Mr. Lloyd?
Okay. Question, is the city and the code enforcement department ready to stop the fines for that code violation since he got his
No.
permit?
No, this is a picture taken. If I could present this to
Yeah,
the board,
we'll
but this,
accept it.
this will show the, as of today, Jose took this picture, it shows there's still, the exterior wall is still damaged. So I'd like to
You can
present
spin
that.
it. Yep.
Okay.
So the fine started accruing because he didn't have a permit,
No,
but now the fine,
no. The first case I was presented was for a damaged exterior wall presented in February.
right,
Okay, but tonight, I presented a permit because he didn't obtain a permit.
for the work that he's doing,
That's correct.
for the work he was cited for in February.
That's correct.
Okay, so therefore, he started the work, needed a permit,
Right.
and so now he's got the permit, he's compliant.
He's compliant as far
So
as
as far
the
as the
permit.
permit for the violation tonight,
Yeah,
but it has no bearing on the work that he
viol-
was doing that projected the permit being needed.
right. That's correct. You can see the damaged exterior wall still presented as of today.
So two completely separate,
They're totally different.
okay.
Well, if it wouldn't have been to this, correct me if I'm wrong, if it wouldn't have been as large a scale, then he possibly would not have needed a permit.
That's correct. But the-
So if it would have been smaller in scale, he wouldn't have needed the permit, he could have finished it and not have the lien still accruing.
I'm trying. Right.
So they are connected in some way.
In some way, yes, they are in some way, but they're just want to let you, so you, the board knows there's two different cases here. And Mr. Bobo was talking about the case that was presented in February.
So he's still out of compliance on the first case?
Yes, that's correct.
And then and so therefore he could, in essence, follow the measures or instruments that are in place to reduce that fine, and you'd be able to help him with what needs to take place to do that?
Yeah, it's-
I.e. the lien reduction once it's compliant within
That's
35
correct.
days?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
That's kind of what I
Sir,
was
you want to come
hitting
back
at.
up?
Yeah.
I just wanted to explain that to the board.
I appreciate that, Board Member Lloyd, because if there was a possibility of that fine being reduced, I certainly would want it reduced. Additionally, we were doing work on the building, trying to get it compliant when we got the permit requirement. And so we got the permit, and now we're trying to get the rest of the work done. You know, we're not in a financial position to do what the inspector is saying to us now. So, we got another hurdle to leap over. But if there was the possibility of this fine being reduced to $25 rather than $50, I think it would be incumbent upon me to ask for that.
How much time took place from when you were told to get that permit, and how much more work did that entail? Did that deter you from completing your job?
Well, yes, sir, we had to stop. We had to stop.
Add 2 weeks extra? Did it add, how many days would you say it added?
I really don't know,
Okay,
but we had to stop.
yeah, no, I agree.
Mr. Nopke?
Question, when did you apply for the permit?
June 1st.
And you got it June 1st?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, it just, a comment back from me. It seems like double jeopardy here. If I understand correctly from the director, had the project been smaller in what he was trying to do, he wouldn't have needed a permit at all.
Correct.
So he could have done this in multiple phases and
Yes.
bypassed the whole thing.
Yes.
So it just,
I actually,
And honestly, that's why I asked the questions I asked. So when it comes before us, if it does in lien reduction, all this testimony will be there for us to consider. And that is, as stated by our new attorney that was here for that presentation, we can use that information. So that's why I wanted to get it on the record.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for him? No. I actually have a question for Mr. Schoen. And this is just kind of out there. Could the board make a motion to reduce his current fine? I'm just asking that question so all of us up here would have that knowledge.
Once he makes an application for a lien reduction.
Okay.
But today you are here.
On
only
the one
for-
that's in compliance?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify for that, so thank you.
And I don't think we can, once it's been adjudicated,
Yeah.
I don't think we
That's why I
can
was just
change
curious.
what the finding was.
Yeah. Okay, well, can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, since I did most of the talking. And that's not a dish tape on anybody, it's just, I realize I talk too much. Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer, Code Compliance Director Tom Baroni and Mr. Anthony Bobo, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Anthony Bobo and Marcina Bobo in case number 16-2020, 18, sorry. That's why I don't have my glasses on. Thanks. To be guilty of violating section 8-28 subsection A subsection 1 of the city code, but because the property was brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Who was the second? Okay. Mr. Lloyd made the motion, and Mr. Nopke with the second. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, motion passes. All right, Mr. Bobo, if you want, can you come up for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Basically, what just happened is that the one that you are in compliance with now, we voted on, that it just was a ruling that you were found guilty of it, but there's no fine on it.
understand.
What you could do going forward from here is, once you get your other outstanding violation in order, you can get with Director Baroni or whatever, and there's a couple options of where you can come back in to try to get a reduction or something like that. Your case is definitely very different, than ones we've seen in the past.
Yes.
But I would just say, try to get it done as quickly as you can.
Sure.
And we'll see where we can go from there.
Now, do I need to work with the inspector to get that done? How does that work? This is unusual.
Yeah,
Tom can give you a little direction, but I've had to pull permits myself.
Yes, sir.
And I've had to have Amir come out and check, and there's certain phases that he had to check. I don't know
Okay.
which siding. But as long as you stay in contact with them,
Yes.
my interaction with them and what we've heard is they're very good at getting back and helping you
All right.
with that process.
All
And we're going in the rainy season, so
right.
obviously time is of the essence
Yes,
for you.
sir.
But stay in contact,
All
and
right, I
that
will.
bodes well for the board when we know that people are trying to do.
Yeah, and I will do that. If I have other questions, is it possible to come back to this board if I have other questions? There's no objection to that, is there?
Well, generally, we're, and again, the city attorney, we hear things that the city attorney and the code enforcement board finds in violation.
Yes, sir.
And those are cases that are brought before us. They sometimes pull cases because there is no bearing left on that case.
Yes, sir.
I do know from the Corps of Code Enforcement Officers, and Tom Baroni, the code enforcement director,
Yes.
are very good at answering
He's been
questions.
very helpful.
It
Tom's been
is
very helpful.
obviously, you would have to check with the city clerk as far as getting on our agenda.
Okay,
I would say if
perfect.
it's not something that the city is deemed necessary.
yeah, basically, if you stay in contact with Director Baroni in the building department, all that, you'll get moved right along.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. All right, Kristen, next one.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yep.
do need to stay here just the next.
Yes.
I have signed paperwork to
Yep.
recuse myself from this.
Mr. Lloyd has recused himself.
I'll step outside, so, and please invite me back in after, so.
Oh, we will.
Well, we'll think about that.
See you about 9:30.
I'm not paying for the drink.
Okay, consideration of lien reduction petition.
Hold on one second. They got
Okay,
Do you want to use the
Since
alternate?
now we only have 6, if we have an alternate here, we can have our odd numbers still, if you'd like to
Sit in.
assume the seat.
I'm okay with it.
okay,
Yeah, if you'd
That's fine.
like to sit in.
So we would need we'd need a roll call.
okay, we can do that.
Welcome to the party.
Please state your names of who's present.
Bruce Plaw.
Keenan Nopke.
Bill Snelling.
Jamie Stats.
Bill Newkirk. Brian Hubert. Ryan Westfall.
Good evening, Tom Baroni, Code Compliance. At this time, I would like to introduce the lien reduction petition request in case number 17-1607, City versus Judy Flynn, property located at 6709 Jennifer Drive, with a lien amount of $8,200. This case originated back in July of 2017 for overgrown conditions and a stained exterior wall. An NOV was issued on August 24th, 2017, with a compliance date of September 8th, 2017. Property was brought into compliance on March 6th, 2018. With 14 inspections by the Code Compliance Department, city costs would come out to $700. Based on Mrs. Flynn's lien reduction petition, which I hope all the board members have reviewed, the property is homesteaded. She has been a resident in Temple Terrace for more than 30 years. She continues to maintain a full-time job due to financial hardship. Also, during the time of the violation, she was having medical issues during the duration of the violation. There was communication between Mrs. Flynn and her daughter with Steve Buckland at the time of the violations. There was constant contact back and forth. So, with all of Mrs. Flynn's hardships, city staff's recommendation to the board is to reduce the lien from $8,200 to the city cost of $700. And that's only my recommendation to the board.
Any questions for Director Baroni?
Yeah, I have a,
Yes, sir.
Yep.
yeah, Director Baroni, I did some research on when this was the hearing that we had on this previously.
Okay.
And I think, I thought at that time it was Officer Buckland that was the code enforcement officer, right?
That's correct.
And I think he said she asked for an extension.
That's
and
correct.
she got an extension, so the actual notice of violation didn't really happen until November, right? I mean, that's kind of what I gathered from,
Maybe Steve, do you recall?
I don't have the dates handy, but it would have been that the initial notice of violation was probably presented back as far as the initial date.
Yeah.
And then the extension just would have extended the reinspection date.
Right.
okay. Do you have any idea what the fine was? I was trying to do the math and figure it out myself, but because I didn't know when the actual fine was put in place, I couldn't really determine.
Kristen, do you have that?
And-
Okay.
And this was basically for stained walls and overgrown?
Overgrown conditions.
Okay.
Right.
It was a $100 a day fine.
Yeah, that's what my math said. If you do the math, then you'll see the fine was actually imposed, like, it had to be like January. I mean,
Yeah, I would,
December 14th,
okay,
okay.
2017.
yeah,
So it was probably taken to the November hearing,
right.
and you gave it 30 days to bring the property in compliance, brought it to December, and yes, so.
But just for clarity, didn't we offer an additional time period after that? For-
I don't recall that.
I don't- that's what I was-
I'm not sure. Does that ring a bell to you, Steve?
Welcome to the party, Steve.
Steve Buckland, Code Compliance. No, I believe the extension was prior to that, because all the extensions were done prior to it actually being brought before the hearing, and they were not here present at the hearing when it went through, so it just went through based off what we had there as physical evidence, and that's why the fine started when it did.
I just didn't know if it was one where we
I
had
had,
given it.
I did have some contact with them, just prior to that, so I knew that there was, some illnesses in the family, and that's why we tried moving it out, from the time frame they did before it came before the board.
Okay. Thank you.
And the
Does anybody get a question for Mr. Buckland?
property remains in compliance?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mr. Hoppe?
That was my
Nope.
question.
Anybody else over here from Director Brony or Mr. Buckland? Nope. Okay, yes, thanks.
Okay.
Yep,
Mrs. Flynn is here tonight, and with her daughter.
yep. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you just state your name and address, please?
Judy Flynn, 6709 Jennifer Drive.
Thank you. You as well.
Hi, members of the board.
Yeah, I need your name and address as well, please.
My name is Jennifer Flynn.
Okay.
My address is actually not in Temple Terrace. My address is 506 Warner Circle. That's Tampa, Florida, 33604.
Thank you.
So I'm going to speak on behalf of my mom. As I said, my name is Jennifer Flynn. I am Judy's oldest daughter. Just to clarify, so that you all understand, I am not the same daughter who these gentlemen have been in contact with, who lives at the residence. I live in Tampa. So I grew up in Temple Terrace. I don't live here anymore, but I'm local to the area. I work at USF, actually. We're here before you this evening, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. We are here to assure you that this problem is never going to happen again, first and foremost. We want to be totally clear about that. And also to respectfully request that the lien in question be fully forgiven. My mom, I just want to make sure everybody knows, my mom really, she takes matters of responsibility very seriously, as does our whole family. That's how she raised all of us. Doing the right thing matters very much to her and to all of us. Under normal circumstances, this problem is something that never would have occurred normally. However, there was, a confluence of circumstances and events that really made it impossible for her to bring up the property into compliance within the time frame. So we feel it's really important that all of you can know about those circumstances. First, as Mr. Baroni mentioned, my mom is 72. She works full-time as a legal secretary. That's something that's hard enough already, you know, even on a good day. You know, by the time she gets home, she's, you know, her energy is pretty well spent. Her job is demanding and stressful. Second, she has suffered for many years now from depression, sometimes debilitating. In more recent years, as her age has advanced, she's also started to experience increasingly severe anxiety. To compound this, sometimes she's been unable to afford her much-needed medication. I do have, if anybody needs to see it at any point, I do have documentation of her medication. Finally, again, Mr. Baroni mentioned this already, this past flu season, my mom was the illest that I've ever seen her. As you know, this past season was particularly bad, especially for older people. She was really just completely incapacitated for a long time. She became ill before the holidays, and it wasn't just a case of feeling sick. She was completely bedridden. She couldn't come to the phone. She missed a lot of work, which was, you know, another financial worry for her to have. She couldn't enjoy any of the holidays with her family, and this just went on for a really long time. She was just, like I said, completely, really incapacitated. She didn't really fully recover until, I would say, February. So, you know, any of these things that I've mentioned alone is enough of a challenge, but it all kind of converged at once, and it really did knock her for a loop. As we've come to know more recently, you know, depression and anxiety, it's not just a case of, you know, having a case of the blues or, you know, having a nervous feeling. These things are really serious health concerns, and I think that's more and more coming to the fore for us as a society. And anybody in this room who cares about someone who has depression knows that they don't often reach out for help when they should. And that really is exactly what happened in this case. I think that my mom felt really completely overwhelmed by the situation. She knew she didn't have the finances to cover the necessary repairs. She was sick, and unfortunately, she didn't reach out to us. She felt like she was a burden. She didn't want to, you know, bother her family with her problems. By the time she did reach out to us, as you all know, a lot of time had gone by, but we were able to mobilize very quickly and take care of the problem, take care of it, you know, we were kind of chop about it. We also discussed this as a family and discussed it with our mom to make sure that she understood that she will never be a burden to us. There's never any reason for her not to reach out as soon as she needs our help, to let us know, and that we're there for her. We want to be there for her. And so, you know, with this support system, you know, fully in place, you have our 100% commitment that a problem like this is not ever going to occur again. These gentlemen here have been very helpful and very great to work with, and we really appreciate that. The last thing I did want to mention, my mom has been a good citizen of Temple Terrace for more than 30 years. She's lived here, she's worked here, she's voted here, she's paid her taxes here. She raised her children here. She sent us to the Temple Terrace schools. And all of this she did while being a single mom, receiving 0 child support. So really, my mom has never not had to worry about money. So that is another major reason that we're asking that you please forgive this lien. My mom simply doesn't have the money to carry the burden of any additional fines. She makes a very modest living as a legal secretary. She isn't able to enjoy retirement like a lot of us are. Work for her isn't a choice, it's a must. In addition, her longtime employer is retiring at the end of June, so she gets to face the prospect of actively seeking new employment, which she is doing and has begun to do already because she is a trooper. She is, she really is. But this is one more scary prospect to face, you know, especially at her age, when it comes to paying bills and putting food on the table and affording her medication. So for all of these reasons, we as a family ask you, the board, on behalf of our mom, to please forgive this lien in its entirety. Again, we thank you very much for the time to speak, and we'd be, you know, glad to answer any questions that you have of, you know, that you'd like to ask.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Flynn? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, prior to the violation in July, I think is when it started, who maintained the property as far as mowing the yard and whatever other, you know, issues with the exterior of the house? Who did that work?
We didn't really have a regular person to do it. There's a lawnmower that we have at the house, but it's broken a lot of times, and, you know, that's been a problem. My sister, who lives there, you know, she was trying to keep up with it as much as possible, but we didn't have a full-time maintenance person. That's another thing that is very good. You know, since all of these problems, my mom has secured a lawn maintenance person, you know, who comes around regularly to mow and, you know, take care of any overgrowth and any issues with the landscaping. So she's got that in place now.
Okay, so in July, something changed, that you guys someone had previously been mowing the yard and whatever, kept the house in compliance, and then, or it just,
I don't think there wasn't really any change in terms of there had been lawn maintenance in the past and then there wasn't. I think it just, certain overgrowth on the fence, vines and things like that, that my sister, who lives there, you know, just kind of probably doesn't have the expertise to take care of. And then there was a lot of algae growing on the walls. We were able to take care of that problem by fixing some leaky spigots. It was this leak that was just, you know, causing so much moisture that the algae was, you know, growing up the wall and discoloring it. So we were able to fix the leaks, you know, use bleach water and scrub all the algae off, and then, you know, repaint after that.
this is after you became aware that there was a problem?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
I have.
Mr. Block?
Just to be clear, your mother works full-time or part-time?
Full-time.
Full-time. And so she's returned to work since when?
She has returned to work.
Okay.
Yeah, she returned after she recovered from being sick.
And that was at what time?
I would say her full recovery to where she wasn't exhausted all the time was in February, but she did return to work before then. It would have been before February, yeah. So again, she was dealing with not really being fully better, but still, you know, having to go back to work. She doesn't have sick days or vacation days or anything like that, so when she misses work, she's, you know, not taking home the money she needs to.
So she's an hourly employee then, as opposed to a salary?
Are you an hourly employee, ma'am?
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't have benefits or anything like that. Yeah.
Let me, if I may, mention something.
Should she come up here?
If, yeah, if,
In my son's letter to you all, he didn't refer to anxiety, panic, depression. And I think maybe he didn't because it's a little embarrassing. It's kind of very personal information about someone. So I think that's the reason he didn't bring it up. And I just know that I felt helpless, whether I was or not, I felt helpless on this. No money, no tools, can't do it outside myself in Florida heat, can't stand up to it. So my daughter referred to overwhelmed. Yeah, whether I should have been or not, I was. And medication isn't magic. You know, it might help for a while and then not help for a while. And anyhow, I just wanted to clarify on that, that's a significant part of not having gotten this problem taken care of, and just sort of hoping against hope that somehow one would come up with something without having to ask for help. Because my children, my grown children, have very full lives with their jobs and their families, and, you know, so, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go on and on here, but there was something else I felt like adding there, I don't know. Oh, just that I've never experienced anything like this at all before. So on top of everything else, I guess I was just stupid. And I do apologize about not having grasped, you know, things better than I did. And, yeah, my job has been the thing that seemed like that's the thing that you have to do. You've got to do that. You've got to perform well at work. And then there's not that much left of me after that. So, okay, thank you for listening.
Yep, thank you. Anybody, Mr. Nopke?
Not a question. I'll make a motion to lower the lien to $1 in an effort to reward a good citizen who became overwhelmed, whose family fortunately stepped in. We could only, not knowing the lady, but we only could hope we had citizens like her for 30 years that did everything right except for a time when they got overwhelmed and sought, whether they could seek help or not seek help. The fact that I would venture to say everybody in this room has felt overwhelmed at least once in their life and didn't know where to turn. So, you know, that's my motion.
Okay, so just to clarify, your motion is to reduce the fine to $1?
$1. That way, it doesn't set a precedent.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, discussion.
While I'm sympathetic to the problems that this family had, I really think the city needs to recoup its expenses at the very least, so I'm not in favor of the $1.
I would tend to agree with that. I think that the expenses are quite substantially lower than what the fine is. And quite frankly, according to the matrix that we would normally use, when we did use that, it would be less than what that would even be. So I think that it's only right and fair that the city be reimbursed their expenses in this matter.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just not to rebut, but
Sure, go ahead.
to, you've got what you've got, based upon the testimony, is you've got a 30-year resident who's paid taxes every year, who hasn't appeared to be a burden to the city at all. Paid for water, whatever she's done in our community. She's come across hard times. For $700, my guess is the city can afford $699 of it. I know these are odd scenarios, and this has been on the board for a little while. This is the first one of these I've come across, but I think it makes sense for us to make follow the motion that I made.
Anybody else? No. It is a difficult case. And the only thing I would inject into it is the city does have costs here, and I do appreciate that she's been a 30-year resident, and a lot of us have, and, you know, you've been a great resident to us for those 30 years. So if we have no more discussion.
May I add just one more thing? It'll be
Actu-
very quick.
Actually, we're in the middle of a motion on the floor right now, so there's no discussion. Let's call for a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Nopke's motion?
Aye.
All those against? Nay. So the motion carries?
Yes.
Yeah.
5-2.
5-2. Okay. So basically what just happened is your motion did pass that he did for $1. I still believe that has to go before city council for the reduction, and I don't know if it'll be on the next, when you'll schedule it.
We will let you know.
Yeah, basically what we did is we just made a recommendation to city council. Now, they'll hear your case, and if they side with you on that, you owe $1, which will be payable within 30 days after that hearing.
So we come before the city council, the same as this, as a hearing?
Yeah, Kristen will notify you, or Tom, one or the other will notify you. They'll set you a time, and you'll actually go to council. They'll hear what we just heard. It'll be a shorter version of it, and then they'll vote whether to agree with us, with our hearing, or go their own direction. So,
Thank you, and, thank you so much. We're very grateful for your recommendation.
okay. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it. All right. Welcome back.
You didn't bring us back blizzards?
What day is Dollar Blizzard Day?
I don't know.
Yep. Okay. Ready when you are.
We are ready. For case number 181703, City versus Arlene G. Tromba for property located at 429 South River Hills Drive. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 81022 hot and cold water supply, Section 81021 sanitary facilities required, and Section 2291 city garbage service required. The case will be prosecuted by Officer Silva. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Jose Silva, Code Compliance Officer. This case originated proactively April 25th, 2018, from an inactive service locations listing that Code Compliance received from the Utility Billing Department. Myself and Director Baroni went to the residence and met Mr. Grimes, who was occupying the residence without active city services. Mr. Grimes was given until April 30, 2018, to activate city services at the residence. My inspection on May 2nd, 2018 revealed no change. Mr. Grimes was still occupying the residence, at which time a notice of violation was issued with a compliance date of May 15, 2018. No one was home at the time, so I posted the notice at the home as well as City Hall, and copies were mailed, both certified and regular mail, to the address. May 31st, 2018, I served the notice of hearing on Mr. Grimes at the residence, and he was advised that he already had moved out of the residence. This time, I'd like to submit a copy of the final reader meeting showing that the meter was locked out on February 2nd of 2018.
The board will accept.
When I did meet with Mr. Grimes on May 31st, he said he had moved out of the residence to an apartment down the road, a little bungalow. He couldn't supply me the address at the time, but he did have receipts, but he didn't have them with him. So I asked him to appear tonight to produce those receipts so he can present to the board. I've been driving by the residence daily. He's not staying there. He's definitely out of the residence, and yesterday I was able to verify that he's actually not living at the residence and his new address where he's at. So based on his testimony tonight, I've prepared an affidavit of compliance also.
Got a question.
Go ahead.
How is Mr. Grimes related to this case?
It's his mother's house.
His mother, okay.
His
That's
mother
why I was
has-
curious. I just didn't know the correlation.
His mother has moved out. She's in a assisted living facility in North Carolina.
Okay.
So there's tension between the family, but it's been resolved since then.
I just wanted to clear, I didn't know if you were talking about it was a rental or something like, I was kind of lost, so. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Officer Silva? Nope. Thank you, sir. Mr. Grimes? Just state your name and address, please.
It's Richard Lloyd Grimes II, previously at 429 South River Hills. The family's been in the Temple Terrace area since 1971. My dad came and developed Sun City Center with the help of Jerry Gould and Jim Walter. That's what brought us here. We were originally in the Lightfoot house. When my folks separated, Mom and the girls and I moved over to 429 South River Hills. What happened about the time of the hurricane, my sisters decided that it was time for my mom to enter assisted living. So we went through the process of going through the motions and came upon the time where there was a reverse mortgage in place, unbeknownst to me at the time. And once that became apparent, I notified Champion Mortgage that I needed a little extra time in order to go through personal effects, arrange a place to stay. I had been tasked with taking care of my mother for years, and when she left, obviously, that portion of the situation was null and void, where I hadn't, didn't have her to take care of. It wasn't my residence anymore, so I had a place to look for. I have a dog. Fortunately, I was able to find a place with the McCormicks down the street at 601 West River. They had a bungalow that was originally the grandmother's, and I occupied that as of about a month ago. I started paying rent as of the 23rd of last month. I have 3 receipts thus far to show to the board. I am not occupying the residence, but Champion is just now going through the process, and I have the ability, in accordance with them, to go back and forth and continue to gather personal effects. But I am not occupying the residence anymore. My sister and I had my sisters, I should say, and I had a strained relationship at one time. Fortunately, 2 weeks ago, that situation, thank God, was resolved. I can't explain why, but I work at Winn-Dixie, and I went in and got a raise and came back home, and my sister called and said, hey, it was the same sister that I remembered growing up with, as opposed to a strained relationship, which I'm sure many of you have gone through before. That being said, we've resolved that. I spoke to her this morning. She reminded me of the situation tonight. So Mom wouldn't be in violation, the estate wouldn't be in violation. We've are trying to, like I said, recover some of the personal effects, photographs and furniture and whatnot. But I am permanently, my dog as well, down the street at 601, I would call it B, as in bungalow. But I have receipts to prove that. I've known the McCormicks for over 30 years, and they were gracious enough to move me in. Timing was right. So everything kind of fell in place at the right time. I don't know if you'd like to ask me any questions, if I need to fill in some gaps or anything.
Mr. Stone?
Just curious, what are your plans for the house, your family?
All I need to do at this point is basically have an estate sale, get everything out of there. I believe it needs to be cleared out, cleaned up, and I'm out. I've got roughly, according to my sister Julie Hulley, who has been in contact with Tom, in the neighborhood of about 45 days, because the Champion Mortgage just initiated the process. So I think legally I can be corrected. But from what my sister advised me, she's the one that's been dealing with it. She has power of attorney over my mother because she's in a various stage of Alzheimer's. That's why she's in assisted living. And that's why I was taxed with taking care of her for a while. That being said, the place should be vacated within 3 to 4 weeks.
So it's
I mean,
going through-
completely. I'm not living there. All I'm doing is going back in and trying to recover pictures and family effects and trying to basically clear the place out, which I think is Champion's request at this
going
point.
through
Yeah, you're
foreclosure.
defaulting the house back to the bank.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, that's really what, okay.
Yep. Anybody else?
No, I just maybe for Silva,
Yep.
no.
Thanks, Mr. Grimes.
Cool.
Appreciate it. One thing real quick before you do. Are you looking for, did you say you're putting it in compliance now?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
confirmed yesterday with Ms. McCormick, knocked on her door,
Okay.
and verified that he is living in that bungalow behind.
Gotcha.
That pretty much was my question. You've got the compliance now.
Yes, sir.
And he's said that pretty much he's
Yes, sir.
compliant, so we should be good to go on
We're,
this.
we're good.
Okay.
He
That
is,
was it.
he is, I drive the area every day. He's going back and forth collecting things.
Right.
You see him bring stuff out and just clearing the residents out. They were, according to the sister, they were quite the collectors.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Can I approach?
Sure. Oh, yeah, you can submit that, please. Sorry. I cut you off earlier. Sorry. All right, can I get a motion? All right, Mr.
I'll
Snelling,
give it a shot.
go for it.
All right, based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Silva and Mr. Grimes, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Arlene G. Tromba in case 18-1703 to be guilty of violating Section 8-102 subsection 2 and Section 22-91 of the city code, but because the property was brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor in a second. You just may want to amend.
Did I
There was
miss
actually-
something?
You missed one of the
Oh,
violations.
sorry, and
Yep.
Section 8-102 subsection 1.
So we got a motion by Mr. Snelling, second by Mr. Westfall. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Mr. Grimes, what just happened is that they found you guilty of it, but there was no fine, so it's in compliance now, so you're basically good to go. Good luck to you guys on your journey. So, yep, thanks.
My sister, as I said, is a power of attorney. She asked me to get in contact with her tonight. Is there anything that I'm gonna get in writing that we're in compliance, or is
Yep.
it just a verbal situation?
It will be mailed out, probably on Friday.
Okay, so is my address at 429 or to Julie? Okay, that's fine. As long as it gets to the family, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, next case.
Case number 180586, City versus Mike W. White, trustee, and Ann D. White, trustee, for property located at 516 Courtney Drive. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 12860, inoperative vehicle, outdoor parts storage. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Jose Silva. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Jose Silva, Code Compliance. This case originated proactively February 19, 2018. The time my inspection noted a flatbed trailer with construction debris parked on the street in front of the residence. I noted carport clutter, roof debris, yard debris, and an inoperative truck with a transmission on the ground in the front yard. This time I met with the tenant and issued door hangers with a compliance date of February 26, 2018. My inspection on March 13, 2018 revealed no change. Notice of violation was issued with a compliance date of March 28, 2018. Posted the notice at the home as well as City Hall. I mailed copies both certified and regular mail to the address of the registered owner. On April 2nd, 2018, I re-inspected the property, found the yard debris cleared and the carport clutter cleared also. On May 16th, I re-inspected the property again and found the original inoperative vehicle was still present and a second vehicle in the driveway. This time, I would like to submit photographic evidence taken by me on May 16th of the inoperative vehicle in the driveway. It's going to be the tan vehicle with no tag.
Board will accept.
As of June 11th, The property has come into compliance, vehicle has been removed. I'd like to submit an affidavit of compliance.
Board will accept. So you're just looking for a finding? Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Officer Silva? No? All right. Thank you, sir. Can I get a motion?
He's ready to do another one, he said.
Okay.
If I practice this often enough, I'll get good at it. All right, based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Silva, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Mike W. White trustee and Ann D. White trustee in case number 18-0586 to be guilty of violating section 12-860 of the city code, but because the property was brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Second.
So we got a motion by Mr. Snelling, a second by Mr. Plow. All those, any discussion? No? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Nays? Motion moves. Next case.
Case number 18-1685, City versus Premier Properties of Tampa Bay LLC for property located at 8606 Shirley Drive. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 10-3B sanitation grass weeds. This case will be prosecuted by Officer Silva. City has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Jose Silva, Co-Compliance Officer. This case originated proactively April 25, 2018. My inspection at the time noted an overgrown condition in the front yard. At this time, I issued a door hanger with a compliance date of April 28, 2018. My inspection on May 3, 2018 revealed no change. Notice of violation was issued with a compliance date of May 13, 2018. The home was unoccupied, so I posted the notice, the home as well as City Hall. Also mailed copies, both certified and regular mail, to the address and the registered owner. On May 16, 2018, I re-inspected the property and found no change. This time, I would like to submit photographic evidence taken by me on May 16, 2018 of the overgrown front yard.
Board will accept.
As of this date, the property has come to compliance. I want to submit an affidavit of compliance completed by me on May 29th.
Board will accept. Any questions for Officer Silva? Nope. Thank you, sir. Can I get a motion?
I'll go for it.
Mr. Lloyd.
Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Jose Silva, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Premier Properties of Tampa Bay LLC in case number 18-1685 to be guilty of violating Section 10-3 subsection B of the City Code. But because the property is brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Motion by Mr. Lloyd, a second by Mr. Nopke. Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The next case is case number 18-1930, City versus Thrasher Investments LLC for property located at 108 Holland Avenue. Case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 10-3B sanitation grass weeds. The case will be prosecuted by Officer Steve Buckland. City has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Yes, Steve Buckland with Code Compliance. This case originated proactively on May 9th of this year. The initial inspection revealed obvious overgrown conditions in the yard. Due to the structure being vacant and the history of this property, a door hanger was not issued. Rather, it went straight to a notice of violation, which was issued with a compliance date of May 16th of 2018. The notice was posted at the front door of the structure, also at City Hall, and a copy sent to the registered agent via certified and regular mail. My reinspection on May 23rd revealed no change. Photos were taken of the property and a request for hearing was initiated. The front yard was mowed a few days later, but the rear yard remained overgrown. And at this time, I'd like to submit photographic evidence. Exhibit 1 shows the front yard from the east, and Exhibit 2 shows the front from the south.
Board will accept.
Can I ask?
He's not done yet. Yeah, he's not done. You're good.
Prior to the hearing, I contacted Ed Hinton, who is the contractor associated with the property, on Friday, June 8th, and advised him that the rear yard had not been brought into compliance, and also let him know by that time the front yard had also continued to grow and needed to be addressed again. The following Monday, June 11th, the yard maintenance crew was on site, mowed the front and rear yard, and at this time, I would like to submit an affidavit of compliance.
Board will accept. Does anybody have any questions for Officer Buckland?
And at this point, we're just looking for a finding only.
Finding?
I still have a question.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Notice in the pictures that the garage door and the windows are boarded in a fence. Does that
This,
mean they're?
this property is back to when we were talking about the history of the property, this is one that has been a problem in that neighborhood. There is currently an open case in reference to the condition of the residence, and that's why also you see that there's a wire fence around the property to secure it, to keep kids out from getting in there also.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I knew there was a prior violation for this property. Has it ever been out of compliance for this particular violation?
I don't think this particular, because most of it is revolved around the house, around the structure itself. There may have been a prior grass before, but I don't believe it came to the board at that level. We've been dealing with the property. There was permits that were pulled and then expired and no work being done on the house, and we're actively looking at other alternatives to just waiting for them to get things done. There are current permits that have been pulled for the interior renovation of this house. The question is whether or not the house itself is, whether or not that's a viable option or not. So we're pursuing to get a meeting with the actual owners and the contractor and move forward from there.
In the other case, do we still currently have a fine running on it?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay.
And just, I guess, a question for you or the board, just for my edification. If it's a repeat violation, in other words, this yard was overgrown before, I'm just saying hypothetically, and it came into compliance prior to a fine, and now it comes out of compliance again, is there any difference in how we would handle that?
If it was presented as a repeat violation, then there's a different step we could take.
Yeah. The case would have had come to us before, and I think understanding what he testified to was, it never reached that point. In other words, they satisfied the door hanger to get the yard mowed, so therefore it never was out of violation, if I'm paraphrasing you correctly.
Right.
About the
I don't
yard.
believe it came before the board as for the
Right.
grass. I believe everything's been as far as what's been happening with the house
So
and not
what'll
having
happen
permits.
tonight is, once we find a finding on it, if it happens again, they can then bring it back as a
Repeat.
repeat
Right, repeat
down
violation.
the road.
That's what I thought, I just wanted, okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
No, I think you said on the record that there are current permits. I know the neighbors probably might be watching or around, that this has been
Certainly, they're watching.
a sore thumb
They've
for a
seen me
while.
there. If they see me even slow down in front of the property, they're coming out of the houses to say hi. So I've been trying to keep them up to speed with what we've got going on here, and again, trying to keep a bit tighter rein on the property itself with what control we do have at this point as far as the way it looks.
Yeah, I mean, you validated it by getting the yard mowed. If I was a neighbor, I know that when you're there, something's gonna happen, so we appreciate that.
Are we making any progress on that one?
It's such a relative term.
Okay.
Yes, there were permits pulled, there was new plans that were created, presented, approved, and the permits pulled. But there has been no physical activity, and that's where our concern is, that there was a roof permit pulled earlier that expired without the roof being
Yeah.
completed. And of course, with the roof being wide open, all the interior now
Yeah.
is, had the elements get to it. So we're looking at if there's other options. Again, it's gonna require a sit-down meeting with the actual owners, trying to get them in to decide what the next step is and what's really a viable option for for the property itself.
Well, thank you for getting the grass
Actually,
mowed.
I have a question.
Yep. Ms.
I
West.
mean, I'm looking at the pictures. Is there a tarp on the roof?
There's pieces of a tarp left. If you stand inside the house, you can look up, and if it's nighttime and clear, you could probably see the stars. Because there are gaps between, it's not traditional plywood sheathing, but it's the actual 1x12s that have gaps in between. So they made an attempt quite a while back to put that tarp on there, but it's absolutely soaked inside.
Basically,
Well, let me put it this
the
way.
other open case that's out there
Mm-hmm.
is going to be the one that handles that.
I gotcha.
So,
Okay.
we appreciate you got the grass mowed, so,
Yeah, right?
Yes.
thank you. All right, can I get a motion?
I'll go.
All right.
Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Steve Buckland and presented to this board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Thrasher Investments LLC and Elizabeth Thrasher, registered agent, in case number 18-1930, to be guilty of violating, where am I? Case number, to be guilty of violating sections 10-3 subsection B of the city code, but because the property is brought into compliance before the date of the hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Second, I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion on the floor by Mr. Westfall and Mr. Newkirk with the second. Any discussion? No? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion passes.
Case number 18-1931, City versus Fadi Hamad for property located at 10318 Council's Way. This case has been pulled.
Okey-dokey. On to unfinished business?
Yes.
Let's go.
Case number 173282, City versus Bernard Patrick, Joseph Paul Charles, and Carmel Murray King, and Josephine King Rooks for property located at 6702 East 113th Avenue. An affidavit of non-compliance for section 12860 was submitted by Officer Buckland dated May 10th, 2018, and he has an update.
Yes, just briefly. Do have family members in from out of town, one from Canada, one from California, that are actively working on the property itself, taking care of some other issues that were there. This is another case that there's some, probably some medical issues that are coming into play that have created the catalyst for this violation to occur. But they are in the process of trying some other avenues to take care of these vehicles that started this issue. So they are working very hard. They have driven quite a long ways to come here to get it done, so.
Just for clarity, was this the one that we discussed before about probate? It was in probate and stuff like that?
Correct, and apparently the titles of the vehicles were transferred to the brother. Unfortunately, that was the brother that was involved in the bicycle accident
Gotcha.
last year on Fowler. So
Gotcha.
again, they're right back into the same situation. They have vehicles that are titled to someone who's no longer living.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Case number 180704, City versus Michelle L. Edelman and Angelo Ferlita for property located at 6110 Liberty Avenue. An affidavit of compliance for section 12860 was submitted by Officer Buckland dated May 10th, 2018. Case number 173155, City versus Troy M. Eastman for property located at 704 East River Drive. The expiration of compliance is tonight at midnight. An affidavit of compliance for section 810214A was submitted by Officer Silva dated June 11th, 2018. Case number 173320, City versus Joyce B. Lindsay for property located at 12802 Telecom Drive. The expiration of compliance is tonight at midnight. An affidavit of compliance for section 810213K was submitted by Officer Buckland dated May 16th, 2018. And the last case, case number 180268, City versus Murray LLC for property located at 13304 Telecom Drive. The expiration of compliance is tonight. At midnight, Officer Buckland will present an update.
Yes, for the update on this, I'm requesting that we have an additional 30-day extension. The business has provided the city all of the necessary information and application, and now it's just a matter that has to go through the process here at City Hall before the local business tax certificate will be available. So at this point, there's nothing that the business can do. It's actually in-house, just waiting for it to finish going through the process, and I'm just asking for an additional 30 days to allow that to happen.
Yeah, that's fine. Are we going to be able, to, as a city, accommodate that 30 days?
As in, can we get it done in 30 days?
Same thing we asked other people that are asking.
It's being handled by other departments other than the one that I have any kind of control over.
Okay.
So we are at their mercy and their timeframe. There are quite a few that they are working on, so. Yeah,
If not, you'll come back before us.
that is correct.
I kind of have fun
Do
with
we
it.
need to even, do we have to vote on that?
We're going to need to vote, we're going to need to add an extension. We need to make a motion for an extension.
Yep, that's, I was just making sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so, we've got to I'll make the motion, I guess.
Okay.
I make a motion in case number 18-0286, the city versus Vamiri LLC, for violation of City Code 14-59, that we extend the compliance deadline to July 11th, based on Code Enforcement Officer Buckland's testimony this evening.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Newkirk. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And just so we know, Councilman Ross is here, so maybe we can talk to him about redoing the city tax policy for business taxes.
Hey, I tell you what, that's a good thing. I mean, if they're inundated with new business taxes, that means people are moving to our city, so.
Just put that in the back of your schedule somewhere.
I have one more,
Oh, sorry.
not on the agenda. Case number 171871, City versus Zoe L. McGill-Wayne for, at 402 Dunedin Avenue. An affidavit of compliance for section 810214A and 810213C was submitted by Officer Silva dated May 4th.
Can I ask a quick, Kristen, what was the date of compliance? I'm just curious, for the 180704, the Michelle Adelman, what was the date? May 10th.
May 10th.
You good? All right, new business? Uh-oh.
This won't be long. I know you want to get out the door. So I just want to really update you on a few things and just update you with 104 Mission Hills. That lien reduction was paid on Monday. Just make the board aware of that case. I'm sure we're all kind of glad that, I know I'm glad that it's moving forward. I just wanted to thank you for the lien reduction tonight. I know that was going to be a very difficult case to listen to, and so I commend you for, I don't think I've ever heard in the 12 years I've been here, a dollar reduction, but this will be the first. So, we'll present it to council. Also, with Mr. Bobo's case with the exterior wall, sometimes we pull up on a case, say a top roof, and we present that case to the board, and then we realize it's more than 100 square feet. Then we decide, well, we don't decide, but the code requires them to get a permit. So we've already taken them for the damaged roof, but now 2 months later, we find out it requires a permit. So this is not uncommon to present a case to you for damaged roofing or exterior wall, and later on find out there's a permit required for that. So it's not uncommon, that does happen. Okay, so I just wanted to, and again, I just wanted to thank you guys for showing up every month and volunteering your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just want to say something to him.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
Tom, you walked away too quick.
I'm sorry. I'm in the zone. I'm sorry.
Promise, like 8 o'clock. No, seeing these cases come compliant and seeing some of the latitude and, the genuine sincerity that we're showing our citizens is very appreciative, rather than just, this is where it's at.
Right,
And
right.
then, as far as Bobo's case, that was referenced to another case in
Yeah,
which
no,
some
I-
testimony was given. So we understand that you get caught between community development and, things change. So
Right, right.
you have to be flexible, but
So-
honestly, this is nice when I see the word compliant and when I
Yeah,
see
I
that, the
agree.
communication's there.
I
You had
agree.
one case that started right away.
True.
because of the history, rather than waiting. And I think the citizens like that,
Yes.
we're attuned to that, we're adept to making sure that we're taking care of the properties. So thank you.
But thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to repeat I just want to say, good job by everybody involved in the department. We're seeing a lot more compliance.
Yes,
Before it
yes.
even gets to us, so whatever you guys are doing, keep it up. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
I have a question.
Okay.
No. Generally speaking, I don't know. When we look at these city costs, does it include like gas and kind of all the other things that takes to?
Sorry.
It was supposed to be a quick one.
I'm sorry, it's been nagging at me. I've been staring at it.
The city costs, as far as code is, I go by based on how many inspections we do at that property. So from the initial inspection to the date of affidavit of compliance, I had to sit down with Kristen, and we sit down and figure out how many inspections. And we base it on times it by so much money. And that's how we figure that. And then the city attorney has a cost, as well as the city clerk.
Okay.
So there's a little format that I have to prepare it for lien reduction, and I present it to you guys. So,
Because I was just kind of thinking one night and kind of started thinking about all the costs that are associated with just getting a vehicle on the road, and
yeah,
I just kind of wondered if that was in there or not.
yeah.
And the chuckle was because it's been asked before, because I don't know an attorney that works
Charges
45
for
hours.
That's another thing, exactly. I have never
No
seen that
disrespect, Madam Attorney.
That's true. We don't pay attorney fees. We don't pay out to Tim that used to represent the city.
We pay daily as taxpayers.
That's what you're saying.
No, but again, they came up with that formula, I don't remember how long ago it was, that they based the attorney's costs at $45 per case. I don't remember where, it was years and years ago.
Right.
Whether it's accurate or not, you have to have something there for that cost, so I don't know if it's a perfect thing, but I don't know if you would ever find a perfect formula for it.
I think moving forward though, sir, I think that's something we need to address.
Yes, of course.
Moving down the road.
You stole my thunder. I was
I'm
going to say
sorry.
to Board Member Snelling asked about orientation with the city manager, and he announced we have a new attorney. Guarantee you that that's going to be on one of the top 10 lists that we have in discussing with our attorney.
Okay.
How that's derived, is it accurate, is it antiquated, do we need to update it, and is it a fair representation?
Right.
Are the citizens truly getting back what it's costing you all to go out and keep these properties compliant? So that's already on my list. I don't know whose top 10 list it might be on when we get our new attorney.
It's been on my list.
Yeah,
So-
so,
And Kristen, just to clarify what was asked earlier from Mr. Snelling, I think Mr. Nopke both is trying to set up something with the board, with the new attorney, once that's all, I guess it's got to go through council and stuff like that for approvals and all that stuff. Once we get to that point, though, I think if we can do that, set it up where, that way if they have questions or need a little bit of training or something like that, that we can do that, so.
and the only thing I'd like to add to that is, what I'd like to do is, once we have the attorney in place, submit you the list of things that we might want to discuss. I think that would help expedite the meeting, so he can come prepared. He can look at the metrics that you use to determine that on the lien reduction and any other things, so we're not starting from ground zero. We can say, these are the things that we have questions on, and he can be prepared to address those right out at the gate.
Good point.
All right, so we can save the taxpayers some money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I add to Kristen's list, or to this new attorney, either he or someone go over government in the sunshine and
And I think that's,
the risk that we've got.
yeah.
You missed last week.
As part,
Yeah, but-
if I'd
but
been
again,
here, I
that's
would have heard
why-
that earlier, so I
That's why
apologize.
once the council does the approval and stuff like that, if we can get our meeting, we can all project those questions before we have the meeting, so that way he can kind of get a grip, so we're not all sitting here for 2 hours asking the same question.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea.
And I put it to you too, if there's some things that you've had pressing with us that seem to be mundane, or that you'd like us to be more astute to, that would help your process.
Okay.
Give him that as well.
I will.
Not dictate to what we do, but
No, I
see the
understand.
things that, okay.
Just make sure you're nice.
Yes. Thank you again.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? All right, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, the Municipal Code Enforcement Board meeting for June 13th is adjourned.
At 8 o'clock.